Take a dozen attractive strangers, lock them in a luxury villa, and wait for them to find a spark. It is the classic recipe for high-stakes reality television. We like to label these romantic connections as fate. In reality, our social lives are governed by strict, predictable psychological rules. Understanding these mechanics is your survival guide for Psych 160 exam number 2. Attraction starts with the proximity effect. Geographic convenience, like sleeping in the same shared room, is the single strongest predictor of who will couple up first. Next is the mere exposure effect. When contestants are forced into repeated contact with a specific person, that repeated exposure directly increases their baseline liking of them. This character profile diagram breaks down the halo effect. When someone has one obvious positive trait, like physical attractiveness, it triggers a cascade of assumptions that they possess other unrelated positive traits, like high intelligence or deep kindness. Popular culture insists that opposites attract. Research overwhelmingly points to matching. We prefer people who are highly similar to us. The idea of complementarity is rarely supported by the data. Once couples form, their behavior is dictated by 3 attachment styles. Secure individuals trust easily, anxious preoccupied individuals fear unrequited love, and dismissive avoidant individuals suppress emotions and seek distance. Initial attraction relies on geographical convenience, visual repetition, and deep-seated attachment habits. There is no magic involved. When a new rival arrives, a contestant's emotional reaction is determined by their appraisal process. Evaluating the newcomer as a direct threat triggers fear, while evaluating them as an unfair obstacle to a goal triggers anger. Raw facial expressions tied to these emotions are universally recognized across all cultures, echoing primate threat displays. Psychologist Paul Ekman confirmed this biological programming. Ekman studied isolated New Guinea tribes with no outside media exposure. They displayed and recognized the exact same emotional expressions as people in modern cities. While the physiological response is universal, cultures enforce their own display rules. These govern exactly how much high arousal excitement or low arousal calm is acceptable to show in public. If a contestant manages to steal a partner, the thrill fades quickly. Because of the hedonic treadmill, humans return to a stable, baseline level of happiness despite major positive or negative events. Emotion operates as a brief, hardwired physiological response designed to help people navigate immediate social threats. The elaboration likelihood model maps how a persuasion attempt splits into 2 cognitive paths. If a partner is distracted, contestants take the peripheral route, relying on surface cues like attractiveness. If highly motivated, the central route requires relying entirely on the logic of their arguments. Savvy contestants also utilize attitude inoculation, feeding their partner weak arguments against a rival early on, which builds up the partner's immunity to future seduction attempts. Effective manipulation requires diagnosing a target's cognitive state and choosing the correct psychological route to bypass their specific mental defenses. When the group is forced to vote someone out of the villa, individual contestants routinely abandon their personal morals to align with the pack. This group cohesion is driven by informational influence, studied by Muzaffar Sharif. In an ambiguous situation, people use others' private judgments to establish a group norm. Then there is normative influence. Solomon Asch found that individuals will knowingly give the wrong answer on a simple line judgment task, strictly to avoid social rejection from their peers. Taken to its extreme, Stanley Milgram's obedience experiments showed that 65% of participants delivered seemingly lethal shocks just because an authority figure demanded it. In a high-pressure environment, the human need for social conformity easily overrides individual logic and empathy. When a contestant betrays a friend after promising absolute loyalty, it mirrors Richard Lapierre's 1930s study. Explicitly stated attitudes rarely predict actual behavior. This betrayal generates cognitive dissonance. The contestant experiences intense mental discomfort because their backstabbing behavior directly conflicts with their internal conception of themselves as a good person. Watch this scale tip to see post-decision dissonance in action. After making a tough choice, the betrayer automatically devalues the rejected friend and inflates the attractiveness of their new choice to rationalize the damage they caused. Meanwhile, the dumped contestant is crying, convinced their life is permanently ruined. Because of affective forecasting and immune neglect, they drastically underestimate their own long-term psychological resilience. We are irrational actors who retrofit logic to justify our emotional betrayals. Master the concepts in these 5 chapters, and you are prepared for exam 2, equipped with the exact mechanics that drive